Winter is one of the most amazing times of year to be outside. You can go hiking, you can go snowshoeing, skating, camping. It is just a fantastic time of year. There are all sorts of advantages to camping in the winter. One of the biggest advantages is there's no bugs. But there are a lot of things that if you're going to try winter camping that you need to know. If you're new here and you want to see more videos like this, please make sure you subscribe and like this video and click that bell so you get notifications when more videos are posted. And if there's anything else that you would like to know, please leave some comments below. I'm happy to answer any questions that people have regarding winter camping or any other things to do with camping in the backcountry, canoeing, even camping at campgrounds. One of the first things you need to know about winter camping, and this should go without saying, but it is cold. Obviously, it's winter time, but you have to be prepared for the cold and be prepared for colder than it may be forecast to be. There are many times that I look at the forecast before I go camping, and maybe it's going to get down to about -10 at night, according to the forecast. You can never rely on that. Things change and it could drop considerably. So be prepared for it to be colder than what the forecast is. Now, being prepared for the cold involves a number of things. The type of clothes that you're wearing. Obviously, you want to be prepared in terms of your clothing, but wearing layers is very important. Right now, I'm wearing a parka with sort of a fleece underneath it. That's because I'm just sitting out here. But if I'm going for a hike, I'm probably not going to wear this parka. I'm probably going to wear, a couple of different layers because you'll generate heat. And you don't want to be sweating in the winter because then that gets you wet. And when you stop moving, you get even colder. So be prepared in terms of your clothing with lots of different layers. One of the things people try to avoid is wearing cotton. Cotton, if it does get wet, has zero insulating ability. So avoid cotton if you can. Although if you're car camping and you're just out, close to your vehicle, it's probably not as big an issue as if you're out in the backcountry where, things can get really bad if they go wrong. But when it comes to your feet, you want to have a good pair of boots. Really, if you have cold feet, it just makes life miserable. So a good pair of boots that are rated to a really low temperature helps. And then for when you're hiking around, you're going to need the boots for traction. There's going to be many times you're in deep snow where you're going to need to have snowshoes. It's a good idea to have snowshoes. I would highly recommend investing in a pair of snowshoes to take with you, especially if you're going to the backcountry. Even if when you arrive, you don't need them, there's a good chance you could get snow, and it's just going to make life so much easier being able to walk wherever you need to walk. So snowshoes, also crampons if you're on packed trails, they have a tendency to get icy. So the crampons, those the spiky things you can attach to your boots to give you some traction on slippery sections and on ice, are very, very helpful. Another thing that's very important to understand about winter camping is that when things go wrong, they can go wrong really, really bad. So you have to know what you're doing. I would actually recommend that if it's your first time going winter camping, that you either go car camping, find a campground that's actually open through the winter so that you have your car right there with you as a backup in case things go wrong. Or go with somebody that has experience. Don't try going into the backcountry winter camping for your first time with nobody else, or on your own if you don't know what you're doing. It's just far too dangerous. If things go wrong, you can be in big trouble. Shelter is an important part of any camping, but in the winter, it's extra important. Now, you will find people with different opinions on this. Some people say you need to have a 4-season tent. And I get asked all the time, do you need to have a 4-season tent to go winter camping? No, you don't. Frankly, any kind of shelter will do. You just have to be aware of its limitations. Now, a 4-season tent is a tent that is designed to take snow and wind loads. It may keep you slightly warmer by a few degrees inside than a 3-season tent, but it's not going to be doing the heavy lifting of keeping you warm. That comes down to your sleeping system, which I'll talk about in a minute. But I have camped in everything from 3-season tents. I've camped in the tent style tree tents. They're basically the tents you hang in the trees, and they're just, the top of that is completely mesh, which is great for ventilation. But you do have wind blowing through. Or you can camp in a hot tent. I have just started hot tent camping, which is, I'm using now a big canvas tent with a wood stove inside, so I can potentially keep myself really warm in there. Mind you, in the nighttime when you go to sleep and the fire goes out, it is pretty much just a cold tent that you're sleeping in. So the shelter is more important to keep the elements off of you. There are many people that camp with just a tarp. I know people that built quinzees and igloos to camp in. It's more keeping the elements off of you, and it's your sleep system, what you're sleeping in, that'll keep you warm through the night. So for sleeping, do you need to go out and buy a $1,000 -40 rated sleeping bag? No, not necessarily. The very first time that I went winter camping, I was camping at the campground. I was car camping, and I brought with me a -5 rated sleeping bag, but I also brought with me a couple of comforters from home, so I had the comforters sort of folded around the sleeping bag to add extra insulation. And I was fine with that. You can use what you have. You don't need to go out and spend a lot of money, but it's all about having multiple layers of insulation over top of you. Or have a couple of sleeping bags, put one inside the other. It does help. I have done that as well. Probably the most important thing, other than the sleeping bag or your covers, is what is underneath you. It is vital to have good insulation below you. Now, you're not going to want to get a big air mattress, because two things are going to happen. First, the air inside gets cold, and you're just going to be cold lying on top of it. Second is, a lot of air mattresses, depending on what they're made of, don't do well in the cold and can pop, and then you're just going to be lying on the cold ground, and that is no good either. So you want to use something like closed cell foam mats. Those are fairly inexpensive. You can get multiple ones of them if you like. There are also some mats which you can blow up a certain amount, but they're not just air, so they will keep you warm. Wool blankets underneath you, anything underneath you to keep you off of the ground or away from the cold air will help. But that is vital. You need the insulation below you and then above you with your sleeping bags. And finally, for this video, I'm going to talk about food. If you're camping, you're going to be bringing food with you. Now, bringing food in the winter has some benefits and poses some challenges. One, it's cold, so you don't really have to worry about food spoiling. But because it's cold, you have to worry about food freezing. Now, if you're bringing something that needs to be frozen before you heat it up, before you cook it, that's fine. You're going to do fine with that. But if you're bringing food that shouldn't freeze, you're going to have to do something to keep it from freezing. What I generally bring with me is a little cooler bag. So I'll put in the food that I need. Generally, it's the stuff that has to stay cold, so I'll bring it up cold. Not necessarily frozen before I leave home, but it's still cold. And then what I tend to do, because throughout the day, if it's -15, -18, -20 out, that's going to cool down everything, even within that cooler bag. So now you're using that cooler bag, the insulation of the cooler bag, to keep things from freezing. And what I tend to do at night is I boil some water, put it in a bottle, put that bottle inside the cooler, so that keeps the temperature of the cooler above zero. I've brought things like salad before, prepackaged salad camping, and that's frozen, and then it's useless. Even something like cheese, if that freezes, or if you brought eggs and they freeze, that's no good. You're not going to be able to use your food. So it's a balance of keeping the things that need to be cold, and keeping the things that you don't want to freeze from freezing. Another thing I recommend is a lot of drier foods that are dried, crackers, soups, even cookies, bread, things that aren't going to matter if they get cold, and you're still going to be able to eat it. But you will find that it's a balance. You've got to be constantly aware of the temperatures outside. Check your food, see if it needs to be thawed. If you haven't tried winter camping, I highly recommend it. Get out there and try it, either at a car campground for the first time or with somebody who has done it before. There are all sorts of people out there, including myself, that have been doing it for years now and love to share the knowledge that we've gained from doing it with other people. So feel free to ask any questions in the comments. I've even taken people winter camping for their first time as well. So it is one of the most amazing times of year to be camping. You see so much stuff that you wouldn't see in the summer. It's just spectacular. I can't tell you enough how amazing winter camping is. So please get out there and give it a try.